working, and this is all I got today. This is all I got. I got to trust this morning. I got to trust it because it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. I kind of blame myself. I wonder if I didn't do enough out there. I wonder if I should have stretched myself a little thinner rather than just being focused on my soon-to-be wife and how amazingly gorgeous she is. I won't say hot because we're in the church. I don't want you guys to think I was a lustful man. But, I guess if the shoe fits, I'll wear it this morning too. I was thinking a lot about my life, the wife that I never thought I would have, and this young man was obviously struggling more than I needed. And so, with that in mind, man, I'm really glad I get to lean on this morning. I'm really glad I get to teach this morning, and I don't have to point you guys to how good of a person I am or what I'm doing in my life that's worthy of being worshipped or followed, because it's not. I get to point you to this morning. And so we're going to pick up, I told you last week, for the first time in the history of my ministry, I didn't make it through a whole sermon. And that was mainly because I knew the restraint to stop because you guys were ready to get out of here. And if you guys weren't, the kids definitely were. And I'm maturing, guys. But it's the work of children of God. And so this passage last week, let's read through it again. It says, For this is the message you have heard from the beginning. We should love one another. Unlike Cain, who was of the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his deeds were evil and his brothers were righteous. That's that whole idea we talked about last week of jealousy. Don't be surprised, brothers and sisters, that the world hates you. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love our brothers and sisters. The one who does not love remains in death. Everyone who hates his brother or sister is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life residing in him. And I promise you it's not the batteries. I checked them. This is how we have come to know love. He laid down his life for us. We should also lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has the world's goods and sees a fellow believer in need but withholds compassion from him, how does God's love reside in him? Little children, let us not love in word or speech, but in action and in truth. This is how we will know that we belong to the truth and will reassure our hearts before him whenever our hearts condemn us. For God is greater than our hearts, and he knows all things. Dear friends, if our hearts don't condemn us, we have confidence before God and receive whatever we ask from him because we keep his commands and do what is pleasing in his sight. Now this is his command, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another as he has commanded us. The one who keeps his commands remains in him, and he in him. And the one we know that he remains in us, and the way we know he remains in us is from the Spirit that he has given us. And so last week, we talked about this idea of the message of Cain being a warning to all believers, that there's this idea, and I'm going to get through this one quick so we can talk about the 2 points we didn't get to last week, that there's this idea of we can do just enough to try to keep God happy. And that's what Cain was doing. He was doing his obligation. He was bringing an offering to the Lord, but it wasn't the best. He was just satisfying his obligation before the Lord. And then we see his little brother Abel, who brings this offering that just saturates God. It is more than enough for God. It is the best that he has to offer God. And the difference is that Cain was looking for a blessing. He was looking for a blessing. He wanted reputation. He wanted a status in the world. He wanted his name to be known. He wanted something good to come from the world. He wanted to be something that was worth remembering. He cared about his standing in the world. And Abel, on the other hand, loved the blesser. And he loved the blesser. He's like, God, you have blessed me so greatly. I would rather live with the least of what you have given me and show you how much I love you than keeping the best for myself. Lord, you deserve the best from me. And this causes Cain to become jealous to the point where that jealousy manifests itself into full-blown murder, and he literally murders Abel. He executes the competition in his life. And it's not even meant to be competition. It's meant to be family. They're meant to be close to one another. They are brothers. And yet, this little seed of God's happy with you and he's not happy with me, rather than stepping up and changing, Cain goes, nope, it'd be easier to eliminate my enemy than it would be to step up and admit, I didn't give you the best. I deserved not to be told good job. Right? And that little bit of jealousy last week, we talked about that sin is this small little thing. It's a cancer. It starts out small. And if you attack it early, it doesn't cause you problems. But if you let it sit inside you, that cancer grows and it overwhelms you. And before you know it, you're dead. It's unoperable. It's completely overtaken you. And if you're not dead, you are left with massive scar damage. And the longer it goes on, the more likely it comes back. And so that's what we talked about last week. That the world loves to attack people who are trying to do the right thing. And it's not because they don't want the right thing. It's not because you're doing anything wrong at all. It's that they don't like the bar being raised. That's the problem with the world. The world wants the easy way. The world wants the low bar. The world wants to be told that everything's okay. You get to choose how you live. You get to set your own standard, and that's it. And yet God says, no, there's a godly standard that you were created to live by, and you don't really have a say in it. And so that's what we get into today. This idea that faith is putting actions to confessions. This is such a tough point because I have to preach this. 5 years. 6 years. I have to preach this 6 years after I see firsthand today a time when I could have been more loving. A time when I was probably doing just enough to hold the title of youth pastor. Just enough. Inviting a kid over for pizza, telling him what the Bible said, and then just like Pilate, washing my hands of it, saying, hey, I told him what the Bible said, I love him, and I gave him that great line, if you need anything, reach out to me. Isn't that the best line? You make it seem like you care, but then you put the ball in their court when they're not vulnerable or strong enough to reach out to you, when they know you're opposing them. You put the ball in their court, and then they never reach out, right? And then you're like, well, they knew the phone could always get picked up. But yet, point 3 is why I can preach today, and we'll get to that. So in verse 18, John adores readers not to love by words but by actions. It says there in verse 18, little children, let us not love in word or speech, but in truth and in action. And I said something 2 weeks ago that sounded really harsh, and I want to clarify it because literally right before I got the news this morning, I was getting dressed and I was thinking about this fact that I said something that sounds harsh, and I think it sounds harsh because one, I didn't elaborate enough on it. I said a couple weeks ago, I said this idea that I really don't care what you say. I really care what you do. And that's really, really true, but I want you to understand what I mean. Like when I am coaching, and hopefully someday when I'm pastoring, as I grow into this calling more and more each day, I do care what you say. I do. Because if you have a conviction on your heart, I want you to chase after it. I do. If I have a kid come up to me and he says, I want to be a state champion in wrestling, I do care about that goal. I absolutely care about that goal. When I say I don't care about what you say, what I mean is, what are you doing about that goal? Like, cool, you did the easiest part. The easiest part is to make a goal. That's why I am not a goal person. No sport I ever coach do I say make goals. Why? Because once you meet a goal, you check off a box, and then what happens? It's over. You have to do what? Make a new goal, right? That's why I hate goals. As a coach, whenever a coach hands out a packet and says, what's your goal for the year? I'm like, cool. If they achieve that goal, great, but what if they get injured? Is that goal a failure? Instead, what I care about are processes. I care about what are you doing to reach what you want. Because most of the time, if I say I want to be a state champion, okay, that's a great goal, but only one person gets that. There's 700 kids in the state that aren't a state champion. Are they less because they're not a state champion? No. What I care more about is, what are you doing to become a state champion? Because those are the things you're going to take with you in life, right? Are you doing extra workouts? Are you sacrificing? Are you giving up cookies and sweets and all that stuff that you shouldn't be eating while you're training? Are you maximizing protein? Are you doing the things it takes to achieve your goal? Because I do really, really care about your goal. Like, I care deeper about the goals of my athletes than they ever will. Like, it breaks my heart more when an athlete falls short than it ever breaks theirs. Because what I know is that athlete could have achieved more. You know how I know that? Because I'm 33 years old. And I look at my life, and you know what I know every day I look in the mirror? I could have achieved more. Right? But I also know that I'm the easiest person on myself. Because I'll be hard on myself today, and then there'll come a day where I'll look around and go, you know what? I tried out there. And I don't feel convicted the same way I feel. I move on. I heal. I grow. I move on. Right? And I look in the mirror and I give myself grace. And then I even start to justify maybe that was what it was meant to be in the first place, you know? Maybe this is what's supposed to go on. But man, when I look at a kid and I'm like, man, I wish you would have achieved more. Just because you owed it to yourself to know, right? You owed it to yourself, especially when it comes to high school sports. They are the dumbest thing to fall in love with because they end the moment you graduate high school. It is stupid, but yet at the same time, everything I know about hard work and pushing myself came from the time I was 15 to 18 playing some game that hurt me way more than it ever helped me, you know? But yet through that hurt, I became so much more successful, and I learned so much. And it's such a foundation in those teenage years. And it doesn't have to be sports. It can be playing an instrument. It can be being in the band. It can be, you know, doing flags. It can be doing anything as long as you're doing something that's pushing you out of your comfort zone to be great at something. And I think a lot of times when we come to something like this and we hear these hard words about faith being put to action, it's hard. It's so hard for us because I think at the end of the day, none of us want to ever look in the mirror and have to admit we failed, right? Or we didn't achieve all we could achieve, right? I mean, I look at my family, and I don't want to look at them and say, you know, if I would have took all those years in my 20s before I met my wife and got my act together, maybe those first 3 years of marriage wouldn't have been so hard. Maybe those first 3 years of marriage would have been so hard on a teenage kid today. You know what I mean? Maybe I wouldn't have been such a jerk for 3 years because I didn't have my life together. Because I was living selfishly. I was trying to justify everything. I was trying to make myself the center of the story, right? I mean, that's why I will tell you, Kelsey is a tremendous blessing to me, but Jesus used Logan to change my life. Today's that kid's 13th birthday. This is the 7th one we will celebrate together. And you know, him and Kelsey were talking, and you know, they both brought up that this is the first birthday where I can say I've celebrated over half your birthdays with you. Like, I've been in that kid's life more than half of his life, and this is the first time I can say that, you know? And that's a big deal to me. Because that kid changed my life. Because Kelsey was easy to love. I mean, she came to me in a situation where she's wrestling with all of her choices in her past. I was wrestling with all the choices in my past. We find refuge in each other in Christ, right? And we see Christ bring each other together. That was easy. Starting a blended family was very hard. The jealousy I feel sharing a kid is hard. But learning to love that kid has taught me, it's not just that I tell him I love him. Am I showing him that I love him? Am I showing all of my kids that I love them? Am I showing you guys as my church that I love you? Am I showing my athletes that I love them? Because it's really easy to say, I love you. It's really easy to say I want to be a loving person. It takes a lot of courage to put it into action, right? It takes a lot of courage to be a loving person. You know why? Because the love means I have to let you in. I have to be vulnerable. I have to let you see a part of me I don't want you to see. Putting love in action means I'm going to fail. It means I'm going to let you down, and part of the love I have for you is that I'm going to have to repent to you and say, man, I'm sorry I let you down. I'm sorry I wasn't good enough today. I should have been better. I should have handled that differently. You know what? My favorite thing to say, because I'm here all the time. You know I wasn't mad at you, right? You know that Dad's a sinner, and I wasn't mad at you. Life overwhelmed me. Life overwhelmed me, and I had a weak moment there. And I am so sorry that you were the one that caught my weak moment, because you deserved better in that moment, and I'm sorry. And I know that the words don't matter right now because you're hurting. But I'm gonna work on this, and I mean that. I'm really gonna work on this. You know, that changes a family. That changes everything. And that's what putting love in action is. Being courageous enough to let you in and say, I'm gonna love you, but also understand I'm human. I mean, I can't tell you how hard it was to cry in front of Pastor David this morning. Like, I just wanted to go sit in my minivan until I figured my stuff out and then come in here and pretend everything was okay. But it took a lot of courage that I don't have to reach out to him and say, hey, I'm going to need you during Sunday school. Can you do the prayer today? Because I think I got one message in me today. See, we are called to be the hands and feet of Christ. We are called to do what Jesus did for us to the world. And we see examples of how Jesus lived and then commanded his disciples in passages like John 13. It says, so if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to also wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do just as I have done for you. Or Matthew chapter 7, where it says, be on your guard against false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but are inwardly ravaging wolves. You will recognize them by their fruit. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes and figs from thistles? In this same way, every good tree produces good fruit, but a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, neither can a bad tree produce good fruit. See, we are known by what we are producing. You know, you can plant an apple tree right out here in the churchyard. No matter how hard you pray, no matter how hard you try, you're never making orange juice from that tree, guys. You can try and try and try. It ain't going to happen. Apple trees produce apples. If you want orange juice, guess what you got to plant, church? An orange tree, right? We are known by our fruit. And here's what I know about love. Love is not always doing the right thing. Love is not always making sure you go home with flowers, right? It's not always getting things right. Like, that's not love, because I think so often, church, we struggle because we go, well, I was angry, I was jealous, I lashed out, I was having a bad day, whatever, and we go, well, my tree's producing bad fruit today. Anybody feel that sometimes? Like, man, I wasn't very godly today. Like, a godly person wouldn't be angry. A godly person wouldn't be jealous. A godly person wouldn't have said that word. A godly person wouldn't have... I just saw it this morning. I just saw the argument over whether godly people can drink or not. And then I found out that one of the most famous theologians of our time smoked cigarettes for 40 years while he battled addiction and still wrote books, some of which I guarantee this church has probably read through or looked at, or he's been quoted in this very church. Because if you don't quote this guy, you're probably not doing a lot of systematic biblical theology, because this guy was like top of the line. He was He was the Presbyterian version of John MacArthur, right? And so I look, and it's like, guys, we get what the tree bearing is wrong. Because in those moments when we mess up, the fruit that we bear that's a gospel fruit is repentance. It's the vulnerability to admit, I wasn't godly there. I wasn't godly. I messed up. Why do you think I point you guys to Jesus and not me? That's godly fruit. The fact that I couldn't stand up here because I know I get one sermon in me today. I can feel right now that I'm holding on to the last bit of what I'm going to be able to do today, and I'm going to have to figure out some stuff after church. I just got to make it till 3 o'clock till 3 o'clock today, and then I can hibernate and give myself some alone time. But me admitting that is godly. That's gospel. The gospel is you need something more than me. The gospel is that I'm not the example. You're not the example. You want to live in freedom? Point people to the example, right? And so what is the thought? What is the example? Because if you think about it right now, it's overwhelming to think, man, I got to bear good fruit. I don't even know if I'm a tree. Some days I don't even know what I'm planted in. I'm planted in something. In most days, if I'm being honest, can I just be really honest with you, church? Like some days I just feel like a fraud. Anybody else feel that way? Anybody else feel some days like I've spent the last 10 years in church and I should be doing a heck of a lot better than I am today? I could be the only one, but I feel like a fraud most days. I feel like I spent $120,000 on a bunch of degrees, and I still mess up. What was the point of going to school to get all those degrees to still be messed up Roger, to still be sinner Roger? Anybody else feel that? Like you try really, really hard and then you fall short? See, I do. But God always reminds me of the same thing. It's not about me. And I'm going to give you a little piece of advice today, church. It's not about you either. Jesus is the example, and the Spirit's the guide. See, Jesus commands his disciples to serve like he serves. See, church, here's the one thing that I found over and over and over again. When my life starts to drift, when my life starts to get to a place where I feel sin rearing its head more and more, and I feel myself starting to give in to sin more and more. You know what the one thing that I've drifted from the most was? This thing right here. I don't know why I clipped it with that cup holder that I don't use. This thing right here. When I feel myself drifting, if I take inventory of how much I've opened this, I will tell you I've drifted as far as this thing's been closed. Every single time. Baseball season. Man, baseball season was extremely hard. You know why? Because baseball season was extremely good. Went 16-8-2 as a coach with an average group of kids. Kids learned really quickly to stop telling me that this team has travel ball kids on it. Because I just didn't care. It went really good. Baseball season went too good. It went so good that I was starting to think maybe you're a better coach than you are a pastor. Maybe you chose the wrong thing. Maybe you got $120,000 in loans just to figure out you're not very good at what you do. You know why all those thoughts could creep in? None of these thoughts were creeping in. None of this was creeping in my life. None of this was reminding me day in and day out of the calling that Jesus Christ has given me. None of this was reminding me day in and day out who I am as a child of God. I wasn't doing it right. And that's scary because I got to admit it to a church full of people who are expecting me to live and die on this thing because they need a shepherd. And yet we read this message and I'm like, you guys do need a shepherd. You need Jesus. And unfortunately, just like those 4 kids that sit there in the back, you're stuck with me. Right? You need a heck of a lot better than me and you're stuck with me. But I'm not gonna leave it there, right? I'm not gonna live with that mindset. You're stuck with me. Just like the rest of you, we're gonna make a choice. We're gonna make a choice to trust that Jesus is the guide, and that if we want to know that Jesus is the guide, we got to spend time in His Word. And when our emotions start lying to us, when the world starts lying to us, guess what we're going to lean on? This. When you're blind because you're regretting decisions you made 6 years ago, guess what you're going to lean on? This. When your marriage gets hard and you don't know if you can make it anymore, and you wonder if those wedding vows were taken in vain, guess what you're going to lean on? This. Right? When you're a teenage kid and you're dating, I'm talking to 2 boys in the room because my boy left, or else I'd be talking to 3 of you. When you're at the county fair and every teenage girl is walking around in shorts that are like right here, right? Like I'm going to start walking around the county fair next year in shorty shorts. I'm going to let my hairy thighs hang out. And then you know what? I'm not even going to hike my pants up over my belly next year. I'm just going to let my muffin top roll over the top of it. And I'm going to, when everybody's like, God, put clothes on, I'm like, that's what I've been telling the girls too. I'm going to dress to the standard of the world for about 2 days. You see this little hairy patch I got right here on my back about 2 times? We'll bring back long dresses. You will think this world is Amish, okay? No, nothing against the Amish, but trust me, there's not a person in the world that lusts after this physical temple right here, okay? I promise you, all right? But I say all of that because, boys, when you're walking around the county fair and you're starting to feel like there's something in your life that may be a little stronger than you are, there's a fruit that you kind of want to take a bite out of. I think you guys can pick up what I'm throwing down, right? You're going to lean on this, right? And you're not going to make the mistakes of those who have came before you, who have fallen short. Because you know where every divorce starts? Statistically, it starts with a couple who had sex out of wedlock. Who, while they were dating, they were also having sex. It starts with a couple who not only does that, but then they go, man, society's telling me I need to take a test drive. So we're going to move in together and see if we can actually cohabitate together. Can I tell you something? You can't. Without this. Let me tell you something. I get on my wife's nerves every day. I was hoping Miss Chris left behind that glove. She did. That one that you use dishes with. Because I will tell you what, I am about to go O.J. Simpson with this glove. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. This glove don't fit my hand. I should have been telling Kelsey this for years. This is why I can't do dishes. Hand don't fit in the glove. All right? I'm saying it to try to be as lighthearted as I can, as my life's heavy today. But you got to lean on this, because trust me, as much as I hate to admit it, that woman that comes to church with me every day was too darn pretty for a sinful man like me. And it cost me. And look, I'm going to tell you, the blessing I get to preach here today, I love. This is my home church. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to pastor for as long as God will keep me here. Hear that, church, right? But my sinful nature cost me months with that kid who committed suicide. Man, it's going on a freaking YouTube too. Sorry for the word freaking. I'm human. My sinful nature, my inability to trust God and His Word, that He would strengthen me to see me through my temptation and trial, put me on trial, to have to step down and resign from a church that I loved, because I couldn't stand enough on this. God, I hate to have to admit that today. Not only did it do that, it caused the sinner in me to run to Chattanooga, which caused my wife to lose her kid for a year. I won't lean on this. Because when life got hard, I wouldn't go to this. I tried to do it all in my own power and in my own strength. And so I know you're sitting there and you're like, okay, Jesus is an example, but I'm not strong enough, right? Good. Now we're going to get somewhere today, church. Now we're going to get somewhere when we start admitting we're not enough. When we start admitting that we are a sinner depraved and in desperate need of help, guess what we're going to look at? The Holy Spirit is the guide. You're not doing this alone. You're not doing this on your strength. It's not a bench press that you lay on and see how much of a man you are. Okay? It's not. It is in the Spirit's strength. It is not in our own strength. Okay? It says, Jesus tells his disciples in John chapter 16, nevertheless, I am telling you the truth. It is for your benefit that I go away, because if I don't go away, the counselor will not come to you. If I go, I will send him to you. When he comes, he will convict you. He will convict the world about sin, righteousness, and judgment. About sin, because they do not believe in me, and righteousness, because I am going to the Father, and you will no longer see me, and about judgment, because the ruler of this world has been judged. See, we can grow into the image of Christ because Jesus died on the cross and then ascended to heaven and left us his Spirit. So when we learn to live Spirit-led lives, trusting that the Spirit is at work with us, that is when we can change. Right? We change through the work of the Spirit. We change through all those convictions. Like yesterday, huge blunder. I don't know how I made this mistake, because it had to do with food, and I never make mistakes with food. Okay? I still have yet to figure out this mistake. I called up my parents. We had just done a lot of stuff at the Henry County Fair. My kids needed a break from the fair, because although Dad likes to go to all the shows and support all the kids that I've coached and taught, and I know we're showing, let me tell you what, the kids don't find the sheep, goat, swine, beef show. They don't find it near as entertaining. They're there for about 15 minutes and they're ready to pack up and leave, okay? So I called my parents. I said, hey, could you watch the kids so we can go to this last show, and then I'll order some pizza and we'll eat at the house before we go to the demo derby? Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. Drive to the Casey's on the outside of town. I go in there. There's not 3 pizzas sitting on top of the stand. I'm like, well, must have went to the other one. So drove across Mount Pleasant. Why we have 2 Casey's, I don't know. It's done. Get in there and I say, hey, I got an order for Pross. They hand me like 1 pizza and breadsticks. I'm like, no. More than just me are eating today, okay? Like, this isn't my order. They're like, we don't have an order for Pross. I look at my app. I ordered the 3 pizzas out of West Burlington. I'll tell you what. When you want a brisket pizza, a little snack wrap thing from Hardee's, a little chicken strip on a tortilla with a little bit of honey mustard, just doesn't taste the same. I wanted brisket, jalapeno, whatever that sauce that they put on top of the thing, I wanted it right here in my stomach. Okay? But I had to call Kelsey, and I'm like, Kelsey, this is the maturity of me starting to identify when I'm going to be a jerk. I called Kelsey, I said, hey, I really don't need you to blow this out of proportion or be dramatic right now, because I'm really, really mad, and I'm really just calling you to give you information. And I'm like, hey, that's growth. Because normally, guess what happens when I get mad or hurting? Who's the first person I snap at? The sounding board, right? And I said, hey, I just ordered these pizzas out of West Burlington, and I'm fighting back every word of profanity that I know right now. And I said, I'll be honest, I just need you right now to tell me, what do you guys want to eat? Like, just tell me where I can go to start to reconcile this problem so you guys have something to eat. And she's like, just get burgers. I'm like, great. So I swing through Hardee's, I get it, and then guess what? Guess what happens at Hardee's right away? Guess what they do? They park me. My God, you're doubling down. You've led this lamb to slaughter, okay? And so not only am I there, I'm wanting to go to the demo derby. I sit in the drive-thru for 15 minutes for fast food. They've got the name wrong, okay? They got the name wrong. And I'm like, I got to call them because I think they've forgotten about me out here. I mean, I'm going to have to go to the gas station and come back. I've been out here so long. So I call in there, I'm like, hey, I have 4 kids' cheeseburgers. Like, this shouldn't be hard. And I'm trying to do it nice, and she's like, man, I'll throw in some apple pie since you've sat out there. And then for a moment it was like Tommy Boy when the lady says she'll turn on the fryer and get him some chicken wings. I was like, yeah, Roger likes apple pies. Like, maybe everything's all right in the world. They bring out my food, I drive to the house, and I'm like, hey, they were supposed to throw some apple pies in that bag. And I'm fat and angry right now. Can you give me an apple pie? And she's like, sure. Guess what wasn't in the bag? Apple pies. And I'm like, God, you doubled down, then you tripled down. But I tell you that whole story because I started to recognize that there was conviction. That the people in the drive-thru window weren't who you were mad at. The guy, when you called Casey's and you told him you messed up, and he's like, maybe not intelligent enough to work through a very small problem, like, he's not the one to bark at here. Your wife's not the one to bark at. You're not mad at Hardee's. You're mad at yourself. Right? That wasn't me. Because my default would have been, you stupid people at Hardee's. How hard is it to make 4 cheeseburger kids meals? And then guess what? That person looks at me and they're like, man, that guy must have been having a really bad day. Or worse, what if that kid in Bellevue? Something triggered that kid. Right? And I started to recognize that the Spirit is at work. But the Spirit's at work in telling me things that I don't want to hear. Right? He's at work and telling me things I don't want to hear. You're not mad at them, you're mad at yourself. Quit taking it out on them. That's not the devil whispering in my ear. That's the Spirit. Because the devil would be justifying me. He would say, yeah, they shouldn't take that long to make cheeseburgers. They're fast food. They signed up to do a job, right? The things that are hard in my life are coming from the Spirit. The guy who's saying you need to get into the Word is not the devil. The devil's not going to remind me that I'm not reading the Bible. He's going to remind me how good I can coach. He's going to remind me of all the good things I've done. When I feel like a failure or a fraud as a pastor, the devil's going to say, no. Look at your resume. Look at all those degrees you got. Look at all the good things those people say to you after church. He's not going to confront me. He's going to justify me. He's going to build me up. Because he doesn't care if he loses me. And this is what I'm going to end on today, church. I'm going to tell you right now, the devil doesn't care if he loses you today. He doesn't. Because you know what the devil knows if you're sitting in church today and you're saved? He's already lost you. He knows that if you are in the hand of God, you can't be plucked away. John chapter 8, right? He knows if you are saved, no matter how hard he fights you, if you are redeemed and you are bought by the blood of Jesus Christ, you can never fall away. But you know what he's going to keep you from doing today? Loving the lost. He's going to keep you from loving the hurting. He's going to keep you from being the love and light of the world to those who are lost and dying and needing a Savior. He's going to put you at every one of your family reunions, and he's going to put you there saying, oh God, look at all these sinners. Look at all these people. These are the lost. Good thing you're not like them. He's gonna be the one that's gonna put you at the press box this afternoon, and you're gonna be looking at all these people who it's barely noon, and they're already drinking beer, buddied up to the bar. And he's gonna make you think, look at those sorry souls up there. I bet they weren't in church today. I bet they don't know Jesus, right? And he's gonna make you look down on them, as if the broken are bad. See, the devil's going to surrender you. He's going to surrender me. He already has. He'll even quit fighting me at times. He'll even let me read the Bible at times because he can inflate my ego more and more. But I'll tell you what, the moment I start becoming loving, the moment I start doing the work and start reflecting Jesus Christ outside of my comfort zone, he's going to start attacking a lot. He's going to start really trying to point out that person's too broken. Oh man, you don't want to go over there. Every good war has casualties. For the devil's war, we are the casualties. He doesn't want more. See, guys, the work we have to do in our lives is not our own work. It's the work of Christ. It says it in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. It says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live now in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. If you're sitting here today and you're wondering what's your purpose in this world, because let me tell you, that young man that took his life on Friday, he forgot his purpose in the world. Or some too young, not ready youth pastor like I was. That's the thing I hold against myself the most, church, is I was not ready for the job I took, but I needed status so bad. I needed to feel like I was breaking the generational curse of staying in Southeast Iowa, of working blue-collar jobs, of just being a factory worker like so many in my family before me. I needed to get out. I needed to be white-collar. I needed to make a name for myself. And I wasn't ready, and I should have admitted it before I moved out there. You know? But what I realize is, only when you forget your purpose can your life ever become meaningless. If you are sitting here today and you are struggling, and you don't know what the meaning of your life is, we need to have a talk. We need to get this figured out. Okay? If you're sitting here struggling and not knowing if God is working in your life or not today, we need to get this figured out. And I'll tell you, I am never too busy to have a conversation. I will tell you the one thing that those 4 people in that back room know is they know that Dad is a pastor. And they know that there may be times that Dad has to work hours that are unfavorable. That's why I spend so much time with him at the county fair. That's why I spend so much time with him at home. Because if things get hard for people, I'm going to be there for people. Okay? Like, we need to get this figured out. Because I'm going to tell you, your pastor's human. And when you hurt, I hurt. I'm hurting for a father right now. I am hurting for a father that has to go through my greatest fear. My greatest fear in the world is that I would ever have to put a blessing that I held in my hands in the ground. It's my greatest fear in the whole world, I'll tell you right now, church. Greatest fear. If there is something going on in your life today, and it is holding you back, we need to talk. Because your pastor is human. And he does not do well. I hate talking in third person. But I don't do well. So I'll talk in first person and just own it. I don't do well when you guys are hurting. So if I can do anything to help you in the season of life you're in, understand I have been called to be the shepherd till Jesus returns. We need to have a conversation. You are not struggling. You are not alone. We are a family through whatever life is throwing at us. Because that is the work that Jesus has gave me and has gave you in this church. To be the light in the world. To put love into action. I'm going to pray us out. And as I do, I'm just going to ask you guys, would you be vulnerable enough this morning as we're praying? Would you be vulnerable enough this morning to remember what brought you to faith? Would you be vulnerable enough this morning, no matter how many times you've been in the church, no matter how many times you've sat in these pews, would you be vulnerable enough this morning to remember, if it wasn't for me being a sinner and Christ having died for me, there would be nothing to do here. This would serve no purpose. Would you be willing to admit to Jesus that you're a sinner this morning and you still need him to guide you? And that you're never going to lose track of that. And when you do, that you need God to be your father and sit you down and have a tough conversation with you. Because I know in this world, we are all struggling. We are all going through storms. We are all going through trials, and there's stuff that we can't make sense of. And we need each other, but we also always need to remember Jesus and what he truly came for. He didn't come so we clean ourselves up. That happens because we know him. He came because without him we can't clean ourselves up, no matter how hard we try. So I'm going to pray us out this morning.